Divided is weakness, united is strength. That's the message for Lynchburg's women's soccer team, and they've been exclaiming it all summer long with a rededication to return to the top of the ODAC. Tonight's Code Red will ravish hundreds on the sidelines as they greet a bus of blue from Lexington. It's a rematch of last year's ODAC semifinal matchup between the Generals of Washington and Lee and the Lynchburg Hornets. Hi everybody, Evan Gates alongside my good friend Kyle Haney. It's Code Red night. It's a rivalry that really, even though it's only an hour away, feels like it gives time and time again. What a night.
I'm so excited, Evan. We finally got some great weather here to play in front of. We've had rain for the last week or so in Central Virginia. It's a Code Red night. It's a rivalry game. You nailed it, man. Let's get that first ball kicked off and get that Schellenberger turf heated up a little bit.
Well, so much energy. This is a Washington and Lee squad that is very impressive. 5 straight shutouts. They've only allowed 1 goal this season. So, Kyle, when you look at some of the numbers, what has stuck out to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, statistically, we're still kind of in that early phase of the season, Evan, excuse me. So we're still learning about these teams, but statistically, 16.2 shots per game for Washington and Lee. So it's sort of the defense complementing the offense. They're attacking a lot. That allows the other team to not have many opportunities in the offensive third. So it's a Washington and Lee team that really blows you away on the stat sheet. Lynchburg, statistically, they're behind in some of these categories, but I don't think they'll be behind in talent out there.
Well, there's so much to look at as well. A general squad that just time and time again really delivers. Let's take a look at some of the keys to the game. Evan's gateway to success. For Washington and Lee, it starts with keeping options open. They have so many players that can make an impact, and every single game it feels like you're going to see a new name on the stat sheet. Last year with the forwards, Sophie Berman was someone to watch. We'll talk about her throughout this contest, but the Generals have the firepower elsewhere. Also starts with forcing Meredith Bowers and this Lynchburg goalkeeping staff to work. You know, if you are not getting those shots off against this goalkeeping staff, you're not going to have success. We've seen Lynchburg, when they're pinned back, really struggle, and we know Lynchburg's first 2 home games have really been routes of their opponents. For the Hornets, it's about eliminating crosses. You got to eliminate the runs. Washington and Lee has assisted on 11 of 14 goals this season, so they're looking to pass as well as rising with the red. It's Code Red night. Schellenberger Field is the site for this Code Red matchup between Lynchburg Hornets and the Washington and Lee Generals. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Evan Gates and Kyle Haney taking you through this matchup that throughout the years has certainly delivered. We see this as a 35th edition in women's soccer. Lynchburg has taken 21 of these contests, but they're certainly still remembering that ODAC semifinal from last year, an overtime affair where WNL snuck away.
2 great games last year, and you're right, the bitter taste in the mouth for the Lynchburg Hornets. They want to get that out completely tonight. It will not be easy. Washington and Lee, another tough squad. They have not conceded a goal in the better part of a month or something like that, Ethan, right?
It's so impressive, and this is a squad that has the defense to do so. They also have the firepower up front, and a general squad that will have Abby Groff in goal, and she has been so impressive. Just 1 goal allowed, 14 saves on 42 shots faced. And the other goalkeeper for Lynchburg today is going to be Meredith Bowers, a story to really continue following. 6 straight starts now after really going back and forth with Kate Shepard at the beginning of the year. She's a mainstay now, and she's making contributions, Kyle.
Well, it's a team, really both teams, when you talk about these squads. We're still in early October. You're still trying to find that identity. And if you're Lynchburg, you might not want to change your core values and things that you've been working on. You never want to change your core values, right? But you might not be ready to go to those 2nd and 3rd and 4th options in the game plan to try to win a game like this. Get some activity right off the opening touch. So already we're seeing some excitement, a long ball down the far sideline that's going to trickle out of bounds, and you will see the big crowd there on the sidelines, Evan. Code Red night, that'll be part of our discussion all night, but you need a goal. You need something exciting if you're Lynchburg to really energize the crowd and make them active.
You certainly want your highlight reel stuff, and we have seen it already in the first 2 Code Red contests. Lynchburg's volleyball team dropped their Code Red in 5 sets to Randolph-Macon, but Lynchburg's men's soccer team came back and beat Roanoke. It feels like our schedule has been pounded with Code Red events so far in this fall campaign.
It's always exciting for the students. It gives them something to really get cranked up and enthusiastic about, and it's a great initiative. And, really assistant coach Nat Deacon for the women's soccer team has been a big part of making the Code Red such a big event here on campus at Lynchburg. But, it's interesting. You talk to some players and coaches. I'll hold that thought, Evan, because it's getting dicey already back there.
See a few shots already entering. None will find Bowers, and we have seen the box be pounded from the Generals throughout this season. It's just characteristic of their style of play, constantly looking to move up the field, and that goes to the defense as well.
It does. They hit you with that high press to where you really have a hard time clearing it from your defensive third and getting into a true midfield exchange with Washington and Lee. And you'll see that as they set up right here. They do yield a little bit, those forwards, but their offense is their best defense, and vice versa. I guess if it was tackle football, we would call that complementary football, but maybe the phrase applies here as well.
Well, that's right. So many players feed one another on this General squad. They're cohesive. We know Lynchburg can run as well. Let's introduce you to the lineups. W&L right now out there with Ann Riley Huber, Emily Burke, Megan Zimmerman, and Sarah Zimmerman. They have 3 Zimmermans on this squad, and so just a cool look you don't always see throughout the season, as Casey's just going to chase this one, let it go out, but it is a corner for Washington and Lee. Finishing their lineup is Sophie Berman, Sydney DeVory, Bryn Bissinger, Shea Bowman, Amelia Mankey, and Avery Hanna. This one is actually shepherded out for a goal kick. It looked like Casey had a late deflection, but it won't matter, and Bowers can boot this one into the Wednesday night sky.
Really love that hustle there from Haley Casey. It's a full sprint. You're trying to win a drag race, and in the end, she does. And that can go really wrong for a defender when you get that wrong. But Casey, that time, made it work for Lynchburg.
She is so confident wherever the ball is on the field, and you understand it. Being a 2022 All-American, she just knows her spot and her role, and it allows the rest of her teammates to really feel more comfortable in that back line.
Yes, so great to have her presence out there. And when you do have a proven player, a proven commodity, and one that plays with confidence, it does lift everybody else's confidence as well. It's just sort of natural. It rubs off on you.
Lynchburg today in the home whites, as you've seen in the first few minutes, back and forth we go. They go out there with a very similar lineup. McKenna Dom, Haley Casey, Morgan Oliver, Alora Gorkowski, Hannah Phillips, Lauren Orner, Sammy Rogstad, Claire Lloyd, Madeline Boyce, and Lilianis Irigoyen. Kyle, let's go ahead and talk about Madeline Boyce as well. 4 goals in this 2024 campaign. She had just 1 in her sophomore season, but she's looking so confident with possession for Lynchburg.
Yeah, Mount Airy, Maryland, and really just an all-around athlete, runs track as well. That speed does come into play for her game, but it doesn't completely describe her whole game, Evan. She's got skill, too. Great first touch. She's really good at understanding where the defensive pieces are, where she needs to go, where the teammates should present themselves to be available for passes.
This cross a little too far. Generals will try to chase it down on this near touchline. It's out, and it won't matter.
Let me complete a thought real quick. I was talking about the Code Red. If you talk to some coaches and players at Lynchburg, they'll tell you it is a great lift and a great boost, but it can add a little extra weight on your shoulders as well. Yes, you love playing in front of a big crowd. You don't want to let your fellow students down, though.
Well, and it's early in the season as well. We hesitate to say that now as October has turned on the calendar, but you understand for some of these teams, like the volleyball team, it's their first home game of the 2024 campaign. So, Kyle, very good point. How do you manage those emotions?
Yeah, feed off it, use it as a positive, not a negative. And I suppose each player is different, too. We get in that trap where we talk about the teams, because everybody wants to make it about the team, but each individual player is different. Some people, you get boosted by the big crowd. Others, sometimes the spotlight can be a little bright.
We will have to see what Lynchburg's women's soccer team can do today, as some contact in the box keeps the Generals far away from the net. Here's the clearance. Lynchburg has just been unable to really start that run today as the defense has been forced into action. This one through for the Generals. They might be in business. Few touches to the left. Let's see what W&L can do. A nice move that challenges Bowers, but Megan Zimmerman's shot is relatively routine.
Well, that was outstanding from Zimmerman, and as you said, 3 on the team, so you got to be specific. That spin, and then found herself with open space right at the edge of the box. Get another look at it. Well, I mean, fantastic touch, and got a pretty clean shot off. Couldn't get it to a post, but you have to really feel great about that if you're a Generals fan.
A Washington and Lee team that has assisted on 11 of 14 goals this season, and that is a stat that will not hide from you on the sheet as Lynchburg escapes down the near touchline, trying to find space. Here comes Morgan Oliver.
Orner with a great little flick over her head and then just kept it on a string there.
When the Hornets have space, they are so smart with moving forward. The question is, can they get the goals this year? That was Coach Olson's point going into the season. He mentioned how the crosses were good last year. You had the wing power to do so. It's literally just putting the ball in the back of the net.
Got to be able to finish up front. You know you're not going to have any strikers that are 100%, but you have some that are better than others and more clinical, as they would say, at the higher levels. Just about when they get a chance in front of the net, they are going to close that deal more often than not.
This one deflected from the Generals, so Irigoyen on the near touchline. She had the final goal last time out for Lynchburg on this home field versus Guilford. They have outscored opponents 6-0 now through their first 2 matches on Schellenberger Field, but we know the Generals want to change that. Looking with space and awaiting the through ball. It's a little too close, and Casey takes care of it.
Fantastic challenge there. That's just great defensive tackling. Washington Lee thought they would get the throw in. That's getting the crowd into it a little bit. So it doesn't always have to be a goal, but if you get some action that's exciting on that far sideline in front of the students, that can engage them and get everybody pretty excited again about the Code Red night.
And you're exactly right. You understand that there are going to be a few words, some chippiness on that far touchline all game long. And if you're this Lynchburg team, you have to understand, yes, you want to manage your emotions, but you know you have not just your 10 other teammates on the field, you have about a couple hundred on the track.
For sure. Well said. And it's 90 minutes, too. It's not a sprint, so you got to keep that in mind. It's still a traditional soccer game where, you know, there's going to be some back and forth, and nobody's going to score 9 runs in the first inning. You can't do that in soccer, so got to stay composed for as much of that 90 as you can.
We will see what Lynchburg can do. They've been on their heels early. Haley Casey's playing phenomenally so far, but we see the Generals still advancing into that attacking third, and it's one that has been very kind to them this season, averaging so far around 2.3 goals per game. Kiowa just feels like they're so confident in possession, too. No forced passes. They're going to take their time.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I was going to mention they really are great with the ball on their foot. Their touches are very sound. You don't get a lot of panic from Washington and Lee, even when surrounded by defenders. You can tell it's a quality, well-coached club. Get a whistle here. Referee didn't like something about that exchange.
Sydney DeVory, the junior defender from Ruckersville, hit the turf momentarily. It looks like she's okay. Lots of contact in the last few games on Schellenberger Field, not just for this women's team, but also the men's squad. And you know it's soccer. Referees are going to let it play on, but especially in these first 15 minutes, it's so interesting to see what the referees are going to do to officiate.
I agree, and I think that's good officiating there. You make sure the player's okay. You don't want to stop the rhythm and the flow of the game if you don't have to, but player safety always paramount. So good officiating there early. I think our officials will let the gals play a little bit with the awareness that, hey, it's a rivalry game, can get physical. It's maybe supposed to be a non-contact sport, Evan, but we know that's not always the case.
So much time in a soccer match that can really start flaring those emotions, as we've already mentioned. We'll see if W&L can get the first real opportunity. This is a chip that just goes to Bowers. No problem. Sarah Zimmerman again taking a stab at it. We mentioned the Zimmerman sisters. It's such an interesting story. Sarah Zimmerman is the lone junior out of the 3 from Cincinnati, Ohio. And then this year you add Megan and Elizabeth, who are part of triplets. Their brother Andrew, who is obviously not on this team, but also in the family. So the Zimmermans have enjoyed that pipeline to Lexington, and it's certainly treating them well.
An athletic family. Washington and Lee is one of those programs, not just women's soccer, but they really work the geography. They get talent from all over the country, sometimes international talent as well. And it's part of the reason why generally they're one of the more competitive institutions in the ODAC, really top to bottom.
Florida, California, and Oklahoma all represented just on this squad. You know that their recruiting extends all around the country, and that is why they are one of the most talented teams in the U.S. As Warner's touch is a little too far, the Generals can advance again.
Cincinnati, Ohio is a soccer hotbed too, by the way. Evan, really. FC Cincinnati just now getting in the MLS in recent years, but they've always had really strong club teams and high school programs in that area. It really is one of the true hotbeds of soccer in the U.S.
Well, and that's a good point, too, because you see the number of athletes on this team with club teams and just playing at a higher level. You don't always get that going into collegiate athletics, and it's just so impressive to see not only what the Generals do as a collective, but independently as well. Casey, a pass to the far touchline. Lynchburg has really just been stranded in that defensive third today, and that's an example why, as this pass goes errant into the student section.
Yeah, tricky right now for Lynchburg because we mentioned Washington and Lee's high press. When you get the ball in your defensive third, they're going to try to keep you sequestered in that area, and they do force you into making some of those longer passes that obviously are not going to be as accurate. You stretch out the pass longer, you stretch the defense, but harder to be on target.
Still trying to connect the dots in the box, though, and Washington and Lee can do it in a hurry, but they are still solving the equation as this pass goes a little too far. We saw for a moment, looks like Lauren Warner hit the turf. Hornets can regain possession, and they will try to keep it as long as possible. When we look at last year, you think about one of the key stats being possession, and it's a matchup that is so interesting because two teams that have obviously been at the top of the ODAC. But when you look at that semifinal matchup for Lynchburg, they outshot the Generals 21-10 and still came away in that losing effort just feeling like maybe they had something left.
Well, there's quality and there's quantity. You outshoot a team by that much. You feel like that should work out in your favor. It doesn't always. And it's, again, back to that bitter taste, that sting. It's left here for the Lynchburg women's soccer team. Now, you got new personnel, too, Evan. Each team has its new identity, but I think the ladies on the squad for Lynchburg are still thinking about last year a lot. You're not necessarily thinking about it right now, but in the lead-up to this one, it was on their minds.
Such an emotional game. An 89th minute strike from Megan Lauder that equalized and sent it to overtime where the Generals would eventually prevail. And it's a conference that's just so heavy, Kyle. You saw Virginia Wesleyan last year with an NCAA tournament run. You know, the middle of the table is just getting more impressive. Something that Coach Olson has talked about in the preseason is that there aren't really any off days.
There really aren't, and unfortunately, Dr. Todd Olson's part of the reason for that because Lynchburg set such a high bar. They win a national championship. It forces everybody else to become better, and really the ODAC has done that. I don't know that Coach Olson would talk about it in those terms, but I really think that's part of it. Lynchburg's so good for so long. You win a national championship. It just makes sense that everybody else is going to try to rise to that as well.
Target always on the Hornets' backs, and we understand that's what happens when you are successful perennially. Dr. Todd Olson, in his 31st season and his completed 30, he's at 29 winning seasons. So it feels like he's doing something right.
Approaching 500 wins as well. And when you watch him on the sidelines, you watch him in practice, you'd think maybe it's his second or third year with the energy that he has and the enthusiasm, the way he connects with players. A big part of his success. I mean, he's got a personality that I think people just love to play for.
Not every coach will mention culture as something that leads to success, but Lynchburg has certainly found that chemistry, and it translates on the field. As Warner takes a stab at it, no problem for Abby Groff.
I don't hate that, though. Get one on Groff. You know, Lynchburg hadn't really forced her to activate and use the gloves, so I don't mind that. You know, that's another one that probably falls under quality. Maybe not what you want, but still, I think it's nice to force their keeper to just have to do something. Make sure she's awake back there, and then you can start getting more and more, and the quality can go up a bit.
Just to see a 1 in the shot column is a win on its own, and we've seen a few of those go in for Lynchburg this year. Morgan Oliver had a shot from outside the 18 in the home opener that ended up finding the back of the net. So you never know when you're going to catch that goalkeeper napping.
For sure. We're 15 minutes in. I think you're liking that right there. If you're in the 70th or 80th minute, you probably would like a little bit more quality because you know you're probably surrendering a possession on that unless the keeper does fumble or do something wrong.
if you're talking quality, something that Washington and Lee wants to continue using today, 17 shots against Shenandoah, just one found the back of the net. It was good enough to earn the victory in Winchester. It was Sarah Zimmerman's goal in the 41st minute. 7 players for the Generals were on the field for 80-plus minutes. So a lot of extended efforts, and you hope against Lynchburg you avoid using that starting 11 that heavily, but you know it might happen with how close this game is.
You know, we actually talked about that in our field hockey game earlier today. Lynchburg, a 5-0 win over Bridgewater, by the way. But you're at that point in the season where you hope your physical fitness is there to where you can play 90 minutes. Not always the case, though. Everybody develops differently. Evan, you're a runner. You know, some days you feel better than others. But you'd like to think that when you're in early October, everybody should be in pretty good physical conditioning and can give you 90 if you need it.
Temperatures have certainly been favorable the last couple of weeks. There has been some rain in the forecast. Hurricane Helene has put its handprint on the East Coast, but the next week is promising, looking at 70s here in the central Virginia region.
Yeah, it looks great. We've got another home game here at Schellenberger on Saturday, part of a triple header day. Field hockey, men's soccer, women's soccer. I think I got the order wrong there. I think men's soccer is actually going to go last on Saturday, but we'll discuss that later on in this one.
Well, it is the third time that Lynchburg's women's soccer squad will be at home as well. And this has certainly treated them well thus far. They're trying to continue the momentum, 2-0 at home this season.
Like the last 10 minutes or so for Lynchburg, Evan, a little bit more ball control in the middle third and also some in the offensive, the attacking third for Lynchburg too. Now they're going to have to retreat a little bit, and this is where Washington and Lee can get dangerous because you're backpedaling, they're moving forward, and their forwards and their strikers are so skilled, they end up becoming their best defenders. We ran down the stats. The stats back that up. Washington and Lee scores a lot. They also don't yield a lot. They haven't given up a goal in the, what was the number that you had? It's 4 or 5 straight games they haven't given up a goal, but even the game that they lost, the goal came very early on in the contest, right?
That's right, and it just shows the commitment that this squad has had. You're going to get hit in a soccer match. That's just how the game goes. It's 90 minutes. You're not going to play perfectly, but what Washington and Lee is doing has just been so impressive, and you see the confidence.
Yeah, pretty close to perfect, and you're right. The confidence builds and builds. It's that snowball. You think nothing can go wrong. Going to get our first substitution of the game here, I believe.
Megan Lauder will be entering the contest. Got her first goal last time out. And a forward that has certainly posed problems on this Lynchburg squad. You need production up front. You got it with number 8 in white.
Yeah, a senior from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, another soccer hotbed for sure. Led the team with 8 goals last season, and she's one that the coaching staff feels like really needs to activate, needs to get something into the netting here sooner rather than later. Our fans on that far sideline got excited about something. Look out.
Lauder came converging. You see Lynchburg trying to gain possession. They can't do it.
Like the effort, though. I don't think the threat's over just yet.
Generals just probing, trying to get out of trouble. Lynchburg trying to start this attack.
Smart use of the keeper there, safety valve. Watch for Washington and Lee. Now, basically a role reversal of what we just had on the other side of the pitch.
The Hornets have struggled to really camp in that attacking third. They have found it, though. A few opportunities. You hope if you're Coach Olson, you just need 1 or 2 to find that goal. We know some of the runs that the Hornets have, especially when pinned back, they can get off in a hurry.
Yeah, you work that breakout. That's one that every coach works on, and every little permutation and combination is different in the midst of a game. But I like this right now for Lynchburg.
Starting really to get a little bit of confidence in this one. It feels like it's been won in the midfield the last few minutes.
It's a full sprint kind of game right now, too. There's not a lot of standing around, not a lot of jogging. Both teams are really using a lot of energy and a lot of effort here in this last 5-minute sequence. It's been fun to watch. I know some fans, they can't understand how is it fun to watch if they haven't scored. Well, there's so much more to the game than that. And that was a good little 5-minute stretch of soccer that I think both coaches probably going to feel pretty good about and enjoy their team's effort.
We'll see how it translates after. The first blow is yet to be dealt, but we might see it soon. Code Red Knight always has some theatrics. You understand you're just a moment away from a different score line. Krakowski reverses the field. She has been so good. Someone who can always run and join the attack. Now looking middle of the field, Dom tries to insert it to Lauder up front. And now WNL will try to keep it going with Zimmerman. Here's Sophie Berman. Just pestered on this near touchline.
That was really nice defending there from Lynchburg in the midfield. You get the sense that Washington and Lee wanted to run the overlap, give and go kind of situation there, and Lynchburg, knowing that, was able to take that away. But good back and forth. I like what Lynchburg did on that previous goal kick, Evan, because Washington and Lee was trying to go with the high press. So Lynchburg, you mentioned it, you switch the field, you go from right to left, then you go back to the middle. Great way to break down the opposing defense. Go outside, then back to the middle, and then you've got all your options available once you get to the ball to the middle with some space.
Feels like that's been the big question mark as we see Lynchburg trying to cause trouble. Wow, Boyce was just so close to getting a touch on it. There's that speed for the track star, two-time high school state champion. She runs here at Lynchburg. And she runs on this soccer field as well. What an impressive opportunity, but Groff collected cleanly.
Felt like it was a little too casual for Groff, but she knew exactly what she was doing there as she made the save in the nick of time.
WNL trying to get it the other way. They're going to get a throw in and good territory.
Yeah, so now you really got to dig in if you're Lynchburg. You may change the structure of the defense a little bit because you have a chance to set that up the way you want to. Washington and Lee will have a plan here on the far sideline throw in. They'll have some kind of concept they want to work with here.
Casey man marking. This one will just dribble out. WNL will do it again. Just over 20 minutes remain in this first half. Lynchburg WNL right now drawing 0-0, but still waiting for the big moment as that kick took a deflection off one of the generals in the middle of the field. We'll take a second to recollect. That's one that you're not going to avoid. Just one of those soccer plays as Amelia Mankey took one to the head, but looks like she's okay.
Again, good officiating, Evan. I know maybe it stopped a potential fast break kind of situation for Lynchburg, but keep the players safe, especially with a ball to the head like that. That's going to be a really big point of emphasis for our officials, so a good job there. We'll see if Lynchburg can build something up in a bit more structured style now.
When a ball like that, too, it's not like you can flop or get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, some of those you might see different officiating, but call is stopped. Lloyd gets this one out, but it goes down the goal line for a WNL corner, the first of the day for either squad.
So it's really getting good now, Evan. Let's see how Lynchburg defends this, and let's see where Washington and Lee opts to go. Do you try to push it all the way to the far post, airborne, get something going there? It looks like you're going to get a three-player setup just at the edge, kind of outside the far post, 18 yards or so away. So we'll see. Watch those movements from those three and see where they go.
Lynchburg has had success on the other end of the field with corners. We'll see if the Generals can do it right here. And swinging, maybe a little too close. It was really difficult for Lynchburg to maneuver. They get the clearance, but wow, that'll certainly up the heart rate a little bit.
Yeah, that was dangerous. Don't know if it's exactly the location Washington and Lee wanted it, but it ends up being very dangerous.
From our vantage point up in the press box, looked like it might be going over the post. As now a 2-on-1 challenge still results in a cross. It goes all the way through. WNL had a golden opportunity, and they're still trying to find it. Casey getting them out of business. Berman wanted to take a swing on it, and now the ball is just finding its way slowly but surely back to the middle of the field. But the Generals can feel really happy about some of the efforts they're putting together.
Yeah, you might feel a little unlucky if you're the Generals, but let's give credit to Lynchburg. I mean, a true scramble defense scenario. You're out of sorts back there. You find a way to keep the ball off the woodwork, though. Might have to do it again. I mean, Washington and Lee, again, they just continue to attack. They're relentless.
With the experience that Washington and Lee has, they know when they smell blood to go for it full-fledged. 4 All-ODAC first-team selections last year. And that's dealing with other conference giants like Virginia Wesleyan. Lynchburg had some representation on that All-ODAC team, and you just know that it shows the fact that there are many contributors. There's not just one stud on this general squad.
That's exactly right. Makes it so tough to play those teams. You scout them, and you just don't know who is going to beat you on any given day. And on this Wednesday evening here in Central Virginia, we have got a really good first half of soccer.
Lynchburg might only need to sniff out one opportunity. They've struggled to find it, and Washington and Lee, sensing they might be able to get a goal here in the middle to late portion of this first half. Evan Gates and Kyle Haney taking you through this one as Berman's cross does connect in the middle of the field. Bowers had to watch the deflection. You can tell Washington and Lee just so quick to inject a little bit of pace into that cross.
Yeah, the crosses have been really good, and a lot of times you come up for that cross, it's hard to pinpoint it and get exactly on your teammate's head or your foot, but these are quality chances for Washington and Lee. If you're Lynchburg, you've survived up to this point. Like you said, you may only need one quality strike. It could be sort of a role reversal from when these teams played in the ODAC semifinal last year, Evan, where Lynchburg got all the shots and Washington and Lee got the shots to go in at the key times.
7 of 10 were on frame for the Generals in that contest, so it goes back to your efficiency point. When you have 70% testing the keeper, that's always a positive stat. As Casey will send this one in on one bounce, it will be relatively benign for Groff to come out and handle. Lynchburg, a team that has had 8 different players score across the first 8 matches of the season. So we talk about the Generals' versatility. Well, Coach Olson's squad can do it too. They're just looking for the big name to come through today.
Yeah, looking for a little bit more maybe from one player, and that's an interesting one across multiple sports, Evan. Sometimes it's great to have that go-to player, that 1A scoring option. Sometimes it's great to have that balance where, like we've said with Washington and Lee, you never quite know who it's going to come from. So different schools of thought there. And as a coach, sometimes a lot of that is out of your hands, too. You just sort of take what you get. And, I know the players have been recruited by Dr. Todd and his staff, but I think you get my point. You never quite know what will happen from year to year. Another substitute coming in for Lynchburg, Ava Olson, I believe.
She has been so impressive, one of the freshmen on this squad that has made immediate contributions. Several substitutes on the way. Someone else to talk about when you mentioned freshmen is Washington and Lee's very impressive first year, Marin Brown. She leads the team with 3 goals right now on just 5 shots. And to come in as a freshman and contribute on this team is even more impressive.
It really is. The Frosh, just year to year, blow me away in the ODAC to where you just think the talent is so good, and then all of a sudden here comes some 17 or 18-year-old and they're an impact player, and it surprises me every year. Maybe it shouldn't at this point, but it still does.
Lots of raw talent, lots of experience. They combine to make 2 very good competitors in the ODAC. Sejal Wellington and Ella Irons back on the field, 2 players who have had some really good contributions so far.
Yeah, Irigoyen off. She was impressive to me earlier in this game. And now Lynchburg going to have to defend again. Washington and Lee has spent a lot of time in their attacking third so far in the first half.
When Lynchburg has tried to start cooking the recipe, it feels like they've had to drop all the ingredients because WNL is so good at taking advantage of the calls, slowing the pace down, and playing their style.
Look at this setup here, Evan. This is kind of a chaos play where you pack everybody in. You're going to have runners and draggers and outlets and all kinds of options.
DeVore serves it up. Bowers has it with 2 hands, and it doesn't connect with the pack, but very good point because the height, you mentioned this is a WNL squad that it looks relatively even with Lynchburg's, but if you just find one head out of the 9 or 10 that you throw forward, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be a Lynchburg head and it goes wrong for an own goal. Those happen all the time, but a really good goalkeeping there by Bowers. It was just impressive how she read that, stepped into it, composed, net minding.
Good run from Shea Bowman. Cross goes through. It's out for a corner.
Another sharp cross there for Washington and Lee. Again, not really a player there to cross it to, but you send a lot of balls over the middle like that. Eventually, it's going to pay off. The Generals will substitute here as well. Just under 15 to play in half one.
Elizabeth Perry enters the action for WNL. They have another corner, and somewhat crowding the keeper as Bowers is going to have a little bit of trouble. We'll see where this kick ends up. All the way across. Wellington got a foot on it, but it looks like it did not touch any of the Generals, so a corner on the other side of the field.
I think smart there from Wellington. Get a foot on that. You know, sometimes you'll see a defender try to trap that and control it. That's dangerous in that area, so I think a pretty smart play.
We'll see if WNL plays it close. Looks like this one will go in swinging. And it's going to cross the box, and oh, wow, trouble for Lynchburg. It looks like Irons was the one who couldn't get the clearance, and WNL, by committee, gets the first goal of the contest.
We said all those crosses were dangerous for Lynchburg. Washington and Lee just kept doing it, this time in the form of back-to-back corner kicks. This one pays off. It's just so difficult to defend that. You're trying to track the ball as a goalie, and you're also trying to keep in your mind, where are the offensive players at? Which one do I go pick out of the sky? Which do I stay back? Great header there, and then a battle right at the goal line. Great replay from the LHSN team as usual. Heartbreak early for Lynchburg. Still plenty of soccer to play, though.
Was tough to tell if the Generals could tuck that one away or if Irons was the one. That being said, if Ella Irons wasn't there, it was certainly a goal for Washington and Lee. Now Irons on the other side of the field trying to cause some trouble. Did she get the late deflection? No. So out for a goal kick. And all of a sudden, it's a very new landscape on this Code Red night. Lynchburg trailing 1-0. And so far, WNL just outshooting Lynchburg 4-1, but it feels like that advantage is even bigger with the type of possession that they have employed so far.
Yeah, counterattacking play is always critical in soccer, and it's a different kind of a counterattack right now because if you're Lynchburg, Washington and Lee got the first one, sometimes that scoring team will let the guard down a bit. Let's see if Lynchburg can take advantage.
Now would be the moment. Try to get one back before the end of the first half. It'll certainly change the huddle conversation with Coach Olson, but still a long game ahead. We mentioned it already. Lauder was the one to equalize in the 89th minute the last time these two teams met. You just never know.
Yeah, statistically not seen anybody on the live stats that's gotten credit for the Washington and Lee goal. Just may not be updated yet, or it might be ruled an own goal. May have to go back and watch it again.
Certainly one of those you have to slow down. Either way, I don't think Coach Tiffany Penns and company are going to be too upset. And here come the Generals again. The sea of blue trying to move forward. Zimmerman starting the attack with good footwork, but better defense from Morgan Oliver just pestering in the midfield.
Yeah, good little midfield battle there, individual play. Again, Washington and Lee so composed with the ball at their feet. They do not panic when they're surrounded by a defender. Footwork is good, dribbling skills are good, and they really do the shielding nicely as well, as in get their body in between the opponent and the ball.
Maybe one of the best compliments you could give this WNL squad is that they don't have a lot of exclamation mark goals. It just feels like they are poised, and they start with the passing, as we mentioned earlier. Some of the assists have been so crucial for the squad after dropping that first goal of the season to go 5 straight matches with shutouts. Looking to maybe do it in a 6th. Still a long ways to go here in the Hill City. But, wow, you can tell Washington and Lee is very strong, just spreading the field, taking their time, and delivering.
Just to update you soccer fans, it looks like freshman Avery Hanna has been credited with the goal for Washington and Lee, a freshman from Westchester, Pennsylvania. She started all 6 up to this point, and a big impact right there on a corner kick. It was the second of 2 corners in that sequence, and it ends up getting Washington and Lee the lead. And now the Generals are threatening again.
That's goal number 1 in a Generals uniform for Hannah. And obviously, a great time to do so with the crowd quieted right now on the far side. How long can the Generals keep the energy sucked out of Schellenberger Field? Lynchburg is still searching for their first real opportunity. So far, just a long strike from outside the 18. That was a very easy grab for Groff in goal.
Yeah, not much offensively for Lynchburg. Trying to run a counterattack right here, and that'll get stalled out. But you know, there's no panic button for Dr. Todd Olson and his staff. They've been in this situation before. They'll have all the right things to say. You still have to execute, and against quality opposition, it's not always easy to execute. You can change the game plan and the tactics. You still have to execute. Got to get that equalizer at some point.
The personnel is not going away all game long. What can Lynchburg do to respond as Rogstad races to the far touchline? Nice work to keep it on the green. Casey now trying to send this one forward, a little too far of an effort. And Washington and Lee looking to fire out of the blocks again. They have numbers forward. One in particular being Sophie Berman. Looking to lace a shot deflected, and Meredith Bowers can come out and grab it.
Good job by the defense to stay in front of that right there. It was a 2-on-1. It looked dangerous for a bit, but Lynchburg was in the right places.
Just as we mentioned that the Generals might have numbers, it really felt like it fizzled out. It was more of a one-on-one effort, and that shows the skill of Sophie Berman in isolation. Sejal Wellington will just have to watch this one go over the goal line, and it's out for a Generals goal kick. If you're just joining us, Washington and Lee, the first to strike off a corner. They've tallied 3 thus far and just 4 shots in this contest, but it's good enough to be leading in a tussle of top opponents in the ODAC. So many great teams you'll see on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network throughout the season. This is always a premier game as Casey shields Lynchburg out of trouble. Bowers couldn't collect it cleanly, and now the Generals trying to go again. They get the shot off, but the Hornets have the brick wall set up nicely.
Could have been bad there for Lynchburg. Good recovery in the end, and it could lead to a counterattack here.
We'll see if the Hornets can get it done. Morgan Oliver, a little too much contact. Referee says play on, never mind. Here comes Lynchburg. And a pass from Lauder, just couldn't connect with anybody.
Yeah, I think it was a through ball there and maybe just a little too firm with the foot.
Right now, the middle of the field might tell the full story. You see Lynchburg just, we will say out of position as a description, but it feels like they have constantly been running to every inch of Schellenberger.
A lot of energy expenditure. If you had the new technology, put the GPS on the player, I think Lynchburg's average mile per hour in this one would be pretty high. And that on the one hand is a good thing, Evan. It means they're hustling and playing hard. But to your point, it can also mean that Washington and Lee's really stretching you. You're really having to play sideline to sideline, and as you alluded to, might be out of position some.
This attack is so lethal. Last year in particular for Washington and Lee, it was mainly Sophie Berman and Helen Otney. They've opened it up to new options, and they are certainly willing to explore more with the success that they have found, looking to make a big run in this 2024 campaign. Far from over in this contest. We've mentioned this is a pair of ODAC opponents. It will not go down as an ODAC game. It's one of those oddities on the schedule. Last year, Lynchburg played Roanoke in that case where it did not count towards the ODAC standings. But, Kyle, I think both these teams know for morale's sake they're probably going to have to find each other in the postseason or at least stare them down in the bracket, so it certainly matters.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They're only playing one time this year, but as you said, not an ODAC game. So it is interesting from that standpoint. I'm with you, though. If you ask anybody on the field right now, they'll tell you the fact that it's a non-ODAC game doesn't matter at all. Good move there from Wellington.
We'll see if she can find space. And nice cross that goes through. Irons just missed it.
Lynchburg taking a page out of the General's book right there. Great opportunity, great chance. Whose ball? Ooh, it's going to be a General ball.
And a collision that certainly is not appreciated by this Lynchburg student section, as Irons had a little shove in the back from that play, but was not enough to warrant the penalty. We'll see if the Hornets can get back in the box. They're looking a little bit stronger now, more like the Hornets squad that you are apt to see throughout this season. Touch that goes over Lauder, and the zip code can't get to it as Groff a few steps too quick.
Like the idea there for Lynchburg, really like the idea. And they went from far sideline to near sideline really quickly, Evan. They're moving the ball better, good ball movement, good player movement. Lynchburg looking more solid, and here you go. You might have another chance.
The underclassmen in the midfield have been a big story for Lynchburg this season. Lauren Orner, and Morgan Oliver, two to watch. But right now, it's all about Lynchburg's defense. Bowers takes a few steps out and prevents Otney from doing anything dangerous.
A little bit of a bad giveaway there for Lynchburg, but Meredith Bowers, she was sort of in that in-between zone, but then she put her foot on the gas and raced and got that ball. Pretty smart keeping there.
And once again, in this midfield, you see the touch from Orner, and now out to Wellington. Misdirection, moving inside, and the touch a little too strong. Back to the top of the 18. The Hornets will have to redirect. Can they regain their shape in the final 5 minutes of this first half? A game that still feels close despite the first 30 or so minutes being dominated by W&L. Now Lynchburg probing and trying to get that next opportunity, as the student section reminds everybody it will be a free kick on the far touchline.
Well, let's go back to that play with Wellington real quick in the corner. Great turn to beat the first defender, but if you talk to a lot of players, it's usually the second and the third defenders that are the problem, and that's what happened with Wellington. So tough as a striker, though, to commit to making the one move to beat the first player and then passing it away, because you have that confidence after you've beaten the first player and you feel like, okay, I'm going to make a run straight to the goal. So a tough one there for Wellington. She'll get more chances, and Lynchburg, this is more of what they need. Keep the ball in the attacking third, keep pecking away at it. Still got 3:40 left in the half. Time is waning.
Wellington is so crafty with her feet, as is Warner. You've seen it on display, as Lynchburg ended up having a pair of throw-ins that won't matter because Washington and Lee is probing in their attack again. Otney can't get there. Lynchburg just extinguishes temporarily. The Hornets will have another, the Generals will have another throw on that far touchline, looking to find the second goal. And Kyle, it feels like a second here would just be so difficult to overcome for Lynchburg going into the half.
Right. You have to stay incredibly sharp right here if you're Lynchburg, and continue to do that if you need to. Get the ball out of bounds if you need to. Keep the back line constructed. Don't get out of sorts back there.
Hornets with space, looking to move forward. Katie Paulette, the freshman from Appomattox, has entered this match. Trying to cause trouble, and we'll watch Wellington. A great run. Perfect timing from Lynchburg. Will they have numbers to move forward? Wellington is going to get this one stripped away. It doesn't matter, though, because the Hornets have a corner.
Yeah, great stuff there from Wellington. It's kind of back to what I just said. She beats the first defender. It's the second one, the help defender. That's the problem. But still a great opportunity here for Lynchburg, a chance to capitalize. And again, it could come on a second or a third corner. It doesn't have to come right here, but stay clean, stay sharp. If Washington and Lee gets possession, you got to really hustle back. If you're the Hornets, make sure you don't give up a counterattacking type of goal.
First time to see the left foot of Sammy Rogstad. This one in, Generals sniff it out, and they will just clear it away. You see how quick that action is. The efficiency from this Generals defense is so tough to overcome.
Yeah, that was smart there. Just basically a punt, get rid of that ball. And Washington and Lee, you can tell they're not attacking with reckless abandon. They know Lynchburg is dangerous.
Final 2 minutes of the first half. Oliver searching for options. She's just going to send it back to Casey. And now Paulette was probing. Who wants it? Irons on the far side. The passing is just felt like it's almost one pass away for Lynchburg. They've been so close to getting these opportunities, but Washington and Lee doing well just to keep everything out of sight of the goalkeeper.
It's a great way to describe it. One pass away. Sometimes it's just one touch away. Just can't maybe settle the pass. There's an example right on cue. It's crazy when that works out for the broadcaster, but it's the right idea. Lynchburg just can't quite settle the pass and keep it in play.
Otney goes down a little too easily, and now this one rolls all the way through. You made a good point. We don't get many alley-oops up here when you're watching the game, so we'll take what we can get. Final 60 seconds as Orner will send this one out. Oh, nice as she gets a deflection. So Lynchburg could just let the clock bleed out. You got to be careful. And the Generals attacking third. I think Coach Olson at this time will be comfortable heading to the locker room with a 1-0 scoreline. But again, Washington and Lee can be so quick to restart the action. The second half will tell a lot.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the second half and how do these teams change their tactics in the locker room here at halftime, Evan, or perhaps you don't change anything. I think that's going to be part of our discussion when we come back here in just a bit. But a good first half of soccer there for both squads. Washington and Lee liked it just a little bit better.
For Lynchburg, do you deviate or do you double down? These next 15 minutes will tell the story. We're through 45 on Schellenberger Field. Code Red night and a beautiful one in the Hill City where Washington and Lee leads 1-0. You're watching the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network.
My name is Alexis Fabula. I major in criminology and I double minor in psychology and criminal forensics. My favorite part about Lynchburg is the friends that I've come to have. It's helped me come out of my shell more, and it's helped me become the person I am and the student I am. I really enjoyed how small the campus was, and I also really enjoy how small the class sizes are. It made me feel like I was going to be more engaged than I would at a bigger campus. If someone was on the fence of coming to the University of Lynchburg, I would definitely love to sit down and have a conversation with them because I'm forever grateful that I made this choice. It's definitely something that a student wouldn't regret. Out of my 4 years here, I've not had one bad experience. I've had a great 4 years, and I'm going to be very sad to go.
This video isn't about me. It's about the limitless possibilities that the University of Lynchburg allows me to be. An athlete, an artist, an adventurer, a writer, a believer, a human. Because what I love about the University of Lynchburg is that they have a saying, here we're home. And honestly though, I think a better fit would be a home for everyone. Because it doesn't matter the color of your skin, the person you love, the God you pray to, the pronouns you use, the city you're from, the language you speak. University of Lynchburg gives you the greatest opportunity they can for you to be the absolute best version of yourself.
Diving in college taught me to strive and be the best athlete I can be, but also the best student I can be. My coaches always made sure that the student comes first, because not everyone's gonna become a professional athlete. So they make sure that we will do great in academics. I knew that would only open the door to my future, and I'm really excited to start my dream program for physical therapy.
Be ready for anything, okay?
Come on, let's go together! Together, let's go! Come on! Let's go, keep going!
Sorry, that's pedestrian.
move. Come on, there you go, come on. Don't give up, get in the pool. Good one. All right, guys, you see the meat grinder down here? Stay in the boat, let's go. Camera? Oh, what you think of that? Woo!
Lynchburg is all about you, your ideas, and your goals. We've got one professor for every 10 students, so you can get all the support you need. In the classroom, in the lab, or in nature. You'll learn by putting yourself out there, and we're right there with you.
When creating a sustainable future, your choices matter, even your choice of a college. The University of Lynchburg is the first college in Virginia to go carbon neutral. Our dining hall is Green Restaurant certified. We compost all of our food waste and purchase our electricity from landfill gas. Now we're turning a hazardous lake into a thriving urban wetland. When you choose Lynchburg, you leave a smaller footprint while building a better tomorrow.
I wanted to be a physical therapist probably starting about halfway through college. I love the concept that exercise is medicine. You know, we're starting to discover that exercise really can remedy many of the things that we thought that only surgery or only drugs could remedy in the past. When the student comes here, it's because we believe in them, it's because we want them here, it's because we believe they'll be successful. The faculty here are devoted to their development, not only academically but also professionally. We're not so inundated with things that we don't have time to make students one of our highest priorities. We have your back. We're gonna help you through that. If you're willing to work, then we're willing to put the work into it and the effort to help you succeed.
Celebrate the soggy shoes and the slow starts. Celebrate the lessons learned along the way. These are the wins. Not the shiny, nail-biting kind. These are the last a lifetime kind.
Want to have some outdoor adventures while getting a degree at the same time? At the University of Lynchburg, we have an on-campus zip line and road course. Plus, we offer adventure trips that cost less than a cup of coffee. And did I mention our beautiful scenery? We're a university for students looking for something more than just books. Welcome to your new adventure experience.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
College has given me the flexibility to pursue my passions and my interests, and I've recreated my identity for myself aside from just being an athlete.
My greatest personal discovery has been that I am capable of doing things that I didn't know I was capable of doing.
To be able to study what I wanted to and continue to play the sport I love, all of those things came together very nicely in one package in Division III.
I was really attracted to Lynchburg primarily because my dad went here. He is an alum, so I kind of had that close tie of being interested in this school. And the school had what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to help people in the area of health and wellness, so the health promotion program was definitely a program that drew me in. And from day one, I've been in love with it, and I wouldn't have chosen any different. I have never had better professors or teachers in my life, and I think here at the University of Lynchburg, the professors definitely care about their students, especially in the health promotion department. These professors want you to be educated, want you to have the experience, and just want you to feel confident going into your career path following your collegiate education. You just feel like you're cared for here and that you matter, and that no matter what, at the end of the day, you're going to be successful, and the people here really want to be here, and everyone has a purpose, and it's just a great environment to be in.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
Get your career in the game by enrolling in the University of Lynchburg MBA program with an emphasis in sport management. This program opens the doors to new possibilities for a variety of careers, from being an athletic director or working in athletic administration to working for professional organizations, your favorite team, to running a local Parks and Rec department. And employers are increasingly requesting and preferring individuals who have postgraduate education, specifically looking for an MBA. And so the University of Lynchburg Sport Management concentration in the MBA program sets you up for success, and it sets you up.
45 minutes to go in the Hill City. Washington and Lee leads Lynchburg 1-0. Evan Gates and Kyle Haney in the booth taking you through this one on a code red affair. It just feels like the energy is still in the air, but Lynchburg has to do a little something to bring it back, and you can tell from the scoreline hasn't exactly treated the Hornets well, Kyle.
Officially one shot for Lynchburg. Had some other quality, offensive zone penetrations, But really, Washington and Lee probably have to say controlled the first half, most of it anyway. Washington and Lee, if we had possession stats, they would have controlled that. I think Lynchburg's pretty good on the 50-50 balls. That's one that you talk about a lot in soccer. I think they're good there. We said maybe the passing needs to just be a little bit sharper in the second half. If you ask Dr. Todd Olson, he might tell you the passing needs to be a lot sharper. Who knows?
Well, and your best critics are likely on your coaching staff. Lynchburg has a very big staff this year, and so they are certainly going to have people telling them what to do, where to go, and what's the best route to success. But right now, it's got to start with meaningful possession, like you said. So far, just one goal for the Generals as we see some of the highlights from this first half, and really it feels like Lynchburg's defense has been all over the place. Haley Casey, a big start to this one, but they were unable to avoid trouble later in the half, where W&L just stirred the pot enough on a corner. As you see Meredith Bowers with a few quality saves, and there's that lone shot of the day from Lynchburg's Lauren Orner.
Yeah, Bowers has impressed me in net for Lynchburg. Likewise here for Washington and Lee. You know, we'll get to see the corner and where the goal was scored eventually. Washington and Lee, that was a sequence in the game where it was 10, 20 minutes worth of just crosses. They were getting the ball across Lynchburg's goal mouth a lot, and eventually when you do that, it's going to lead to things like this. There's the goal. A really good touch off the serve in there. That's not always easy to do on such a long aerial pass to get a quality first touch. So credit Washington and Lee. I think, again, their skills, their first touch has blown us both away really all game. That's one of their strong suits. They're really good with the ball on their feet.
The technical skills are certainly there. They're going to need to be if they want to put Lynchburg away. We know this Hornets squad will not go silently into the night, but right now the freshman Avery Hanna's strike is enough to put Washington and Lee in the lead. Can they keep it as the Hornets charge forward? Madeline Boyce trying to make some trouble, and the Hornets quickly trying to work into that attacking third.
I think general thought in sports is the team that is down needs to change tactics. The team that is leading should continue to do what they do. Not always the case. And then sometimes there's a chess match where one team has to anticipate the other team's move. So let's find out if we do see any tactical adjustments. I don't know that Lynchburg would go so far as to make a formation change, or at least not this early in the half, right, Evan?
Well, we'll see what this defense does as well. This is a Lynchburg squad that is not afraid to send people forward. If you've watched someone like Alora Grokowski or Sammy Rogstad this season, they are all over the field, and that might help the attack. But the question is, what's in the cards with that formation, as you said, Kyle? And right now, it just looks like Washington and Lee will take possession over in the first few minutes of the second half.
And I like that Coach Dr. Todd Olson gives his players that freedom of movement. Hey, if you got a long run, if you want to take it. We'll fill in that spot. Some coaches prefer, more static. This is your area. Stay there. Pass and move in that area. But Lynchburg doesn't mind those long runs from the back, specifically down a sideline. That's usually when you'll see it. But it could come in the middle of the field as well.
All depends on where the possession starts. This one will be a Lynchburg throw-in on the far side. This is a Lynchburg team that does not give up goals very often against ODAC opponents. We did mention this is not scored as a conference game early in the year. But last year in the 10 games on the ODAC slate, Lynchburg conceded just 5 goals in the regular season, one of them being to Washington and Lee in that 1-1 draw. Can they alleviate the problems early? As the Generals finding space, Sophie Berman. They now connect to the middle and a little too much space. There's an opening for the Generals. They tuck it away. Emily Burke, the sophomore, had an array of green around her, and that was all she needed to get it past Bowers.
And you can call that one a surgical finish from Burke. We'll get to see her touch, turn, and then finds that corner really, really with precision. It was a great effort from Bowers. I think she got at least a glove on it, but not enough to keep it out of the back of the cage.
Goal number 3 for Emily Burke, and she has continued to perform, as have so many of the Generals. Here's a second look at it. The left foot maybe took a deflection off the gloves of Bowers, it won't matter.
That was an interesting turn from Burke, too, as she actually played it out into space and got herself closer to the goal. May not have been her intent. It may have just been the pass was so hot, but there was room there, and she finished it off.
You could tell the storm was brewing when it felt like Lynchburg's defense was almost non-existent. A few passes connected the Generals' way, and they had the pocket to do so. And now Lynchburg's climb just got a whole lot steeper.
Nice give and go on that far sideline.
We'll see if the cross gets through. Groff had to be careful, as this one is tucked away and it'll be booted out. But Lynchburg, maybe a little quick retaliation in the cards.
And that's one you hear a lot, and especially when you go down 2-0, coaches will say, hey, you got to get one in the next 5 minutes. The other team has taken their foot off the gas a little bit. Groff with a nice save right there. There was some crumbs out there initially, but she cleaned the plate and keeping the clean sheet at the moment. Still plenty of time. But again, if you're Lynchburg, you really have to stay sharp. You have to stay focused. You can't go down 3-0, can you, Evan, and still expect to come back?
Absolutely. A sooner rather than later approach might be what the doctor ordered, and Dr. Todd Olson is going to have to do a lot to get Lynchburg back into this contest, but credit to the Generals. It certainly feels like they have been the ones with their foot on the gas pedal. The question is, can they keep it? And let's go back to Abby Groff, the goalkeeper for the Generals. She's started every match this season, and obviously Washington and Lee's offense is so explosive, it alleviates the troubles of this defense. But she has, so far, going into this contest, just 1 goal allowed and .18 goals against average.
It's incredible. She's the kind of player that would probably give the full credit to the 10 in front of her, and they deserve that. But you can tell she's spry back there. She's got good hands. She understands where the shots are going to come from. She is more than worthy of the praise.
Nice touch as Bowers collects this one, and Riley Huber tried to devise the plan to find goal number 3.
Good one by Bowers there. Sometimes that skip off the turf can play tricks on you. That can be a difficult adjustment for players that have only played on natural grass their entire career. You get on the turf here at Shelley. Ball behaves just slightly differently, but she handled it nicely.
The Generals do play on grass at home. As this shot tests Bowers, she has to take a step backwards, and now Lynchburg looking to explode out the other side.
And right decision to get rid of it quick there with the rollout bowling ball style pass. Lynchburg's going to work this near sideline.
Bowers coming off a week where she was recognized as the ODAC Defensive Player of the Week. Abby Groff, the opposing goalkeeper, has also tallied 2 of those awards in September. And so you look at 2 of the premier goalkeepers in the conference, and they have certainly been tested. You see it in the records so far. 2 teams with winning records, and they have not faced easy opponents, Kyle.
No, the strength of schedule for these 2 squads is something to behold and something that we'll talk about it and continue to as ODAC play goes on. It's such a quality schedule, and both of these coaches understand the importance of testing your team, especially in what I call that first phase of the season there, late August through September before you get into conference play. And both of these teams have a healthy resume.
Washington and Lee 1-1 in ranked games this season. Lynchburg struggled in a tournament at Roanoke where they faced Hardin Simmons and Johns Hopkins, 2 of the better opponents in the nation. But ever since, the Hornets have been rock solid. Like you said, you're almost always going to have a tough slate when you are at this pedigree. You know, Lynchburg is looking to really have that iron sharpens iron approach.
Yeah, and sometimes that iron's going to cut you. Watch out. Strong strike here. What a save by Bowers.
Bowers fully extends to keep this one out, and what really could have shut the coffin. The Generals continuing to find their space as Bryn Bissinger, the 2023 All-ODAC first-teamer, made Bowers act in a very tough maneuver. How about that?
That's impressive. That's as good as you're going to get there from Bowers. That's the one that the goalies just practice nonstop. I'll finally get a chance to do it in the game.
Ooh, this one also right by the pipes, and Bowers does just enough to extinguish it.
It's all happening on the goal to our right, and Bowers, she's let 2 go by, but man, she deserves a lot of high praise. That could have been dangerous. Danger, again, not completely extinguished here as Washington and Lee is going to keep the pressure on.
Certainly a reason why she has now collected 6 starts for the Hornets this season, and she will have the ball at her feet for a goal kick. Lynchburg doing everything they can just to keep this one close, and early in the second half, you can tell W&L came out with a sense of urgency, what you don't always see from a leading squad.
Kick from Bowers was kind of a shank out here to the near left sideline. Washington and Lee is going to take over. To your point, Washington and Lee, yeah, they knew a second goal would be paramount. They did come out continuing to attack and maybe even kicked it into 5th gear a little bit on the attack. I think they're still in that gear right now.
Still probing this one, fired all the way around, crosses the field and in. Talk about theatrics, the curtain has dropped. That was as good as it's going to get for Washington and Lee, and they are all over this contest now.
That is potentially the best goal you're going to see all year. What a strike. I mean, precision, velocity. It was just a great move to get to the ball in open space to start with. This is a quality goal. This is a quality goal. And you feel for Bowers a little bit, the Lynchburg keeper, but this is just an outstanding goal.
Not much you can do if you're Lynchburg's defense. That's just an example of better offense. And wow, W&L coming away with goal number 3, trying to make bedtime a little early for this contest because they have come out and put on a sharp display.
I mean, it's at the edge of the penalty box, so you have some distance involved. She's far wide there with just a quality rip, and it's really tough to withstand that if you're Lynchburg. We said going down 3-0 is basically disaster. When it comes from a goal like that too, Evan, it deflates you that much more. I know Lynchburg's going to continue to play hard. They always do. And you never know. You scratch one across the line, and then maybe you work on the second one. All of a sudden you got a game again. But that has got to be deflating for the Hornets.
So difficult after going into that first half and you're only down a goal. All of a sudden the trouble has exploded. Can't leave dynamite in your pocket for too long. And now the Hornets are just trying to find their footing. We'll have to confirm the goal scorer. It looks to be Megan Zimmerman on the far side of the field. The Generals tuck away a beautiful look. Their offense just continues to impress, and it's not just in this game. You got to look throughout the entire slate so far in 2024 after giving up the first goal. Now 17 consecutive, looking to add on as this one bounces to Bowers.
The goal officially, I believe, was given to Burke. No, the goal was Megan Zimmerman. Megan Zimmerman, 53rd minute, 3rd goal of the game for Washington and Lee.
And 3rd goal of her young career at Washington and Lee. Already mentioned earlier in this contest, Sarah Zimmerman, her sister, a junior on the squad, a 2-time All-ODAC performer. First team in 2023. Ava Olsen, a nice pass inside. Lynchburg on the doorstep, but Oliver couldn't tuck it away.
Great opportunity. It was a really good setup with the ball in the middle. Loved the pass from Olsen. Just let the defense converge. Great job to hustle back by Washington and Lee. Again, they're defending diligently. They're not just sitting on a 3-0 lead, Evan. They're trying to hold that and preserve another shutout, what would be their 6th in a row if this stands.
So clinical. The Hornets attack in this situation. The decibels might not be high. You might not hear the echo, but silently trying to sneak back in. Corner and swinging. Casey trying to get there. The Generals can just head this one away. Second opportunity. Irigoyen pounds it on in. Lynchburg has their first of the contest.
That'll give the crowd something to go nuts about. High volume. Irigoyen with a boot into the middle that looked a little wild at first, Evan, but she knew exactly what she was doing. Put it in a great spot.
After Megan Lauder did not convert on her first 11 shots of the season, she's tucked away the next 2. And Lynchburg, as we said, looks to creep back into this contest. Maybe they inject a little energy back in the student section on Code Red night. It's still a long climb, and it's going to need to be a valiant effort, but Lynchburg has finally struck blood.
Fantastic there. Sighted it perfectly, read it, and actually didn't try to do too much with the header. Sometimes players try to manipulate the location too much. Just really put it nicely under the top bar in the goal there. Perfect positioning, and really a very athletic play, a sneaky good athletic play, because that's harder to do than people realize. That's why you do all that hard work in practice, taking balls off the head and working on it. And Lynchburg, maybe with some momentum, Evan.
Uruguayan from the first look almost seemed that she was winding up for a shot, and it just connected so nicely because obviously Lynchburg had numbers right by the pipes.
Yeah, it was. I'm with you. It looked like a wild touch, but it'd be interesting to ask her. She may have put that ball exactly where she wanted, because she did see a couple of her teammates there with some open space, and that paid off.
You see a look at Lynchburg's student section, maybe a little more lively now. A goal on the scoreboard will certainly help things out, but the Hornets not out of the water yet. WNL can strike back and make it another 3-goal deficit. They're probing to do so. And Riley Huber stopped by Dom. 3-on-3 offense. Here come the Hornets. And Madeline Boyce, a touch around traffic.
Lynchburg's got the initiative right now, I think. What a tackle from Dom that led to that nice open field run. I think Lynchburg does have some momentum. That's, again, sometimes hard to quantify and put your finger on, but I like the way the Hornets are playing right now. Still down 2. They're going to have to be basically perfect, but still 32 minutes and some change to work with.
Little extra action on the far side of the field. WNL will earn the throw. An interesting note we haven't talked about. You see the student section all the way back into the 5th lane on the track, Kyle. And this is not an official stat, but I think in the past, Code Red, you might be on lane 2, lane 3, a little closer. You know WNL's coming into town. Maybe John Waters, the athletic director, said, let's move it back.
Get the rope back a little bit. And that's actually one that you talk about sometimes in your conference meetings because, you know, obviously Lynchburg is not the only team that does a Code Red game. Everybody calls it something different. But you have these games like this, or maybe you just have a big crowd in general. And sometimes in those conference meetings, the ADs and the coaches say, all right, let's clean it up a little bit this year. Let's make sure we don't have people out on the pitch and on the court and those kinds of things. So all part of the fun, I think, in college athletics.
You want to have a fun environment. You also want to protect everybody out there, and especially when they're playing as well as they've been playing this season on both sides. Berman making the run, trying to stay on sides. The pass is sniffed out from Lynchburg's defense, and they can look to go the other way. Better defense now in the second half, at least the last few moments from the Hornets. We know they had the few slip-ups to result in the 2 goals, but you're seeing a little more urgency.
I agree. I think they have been sharper on the back line. 2 goals notwithstanding, or bar those 2 goals might be a better way to phrase it. A little bit of a misplay on the header there, but I just think the quality of soccer has been really good today. I mean, we've seen 2 top-shelf goals. The most recent one from Washington and Lee, and then Lauder there with the header for Lynchburg. I think those are 2 of the better goals you're going to see this season. We may not be done with the goal scoring just yet. If you're a Lynchburg fan, you hope there's a couple more in the bag.
Not even done with 3 matches on Schellenberger Field for this women's team, and you have seen 10 goals if you've watched the action all the way through. So it has not been shy. We know that is the name of the game. Finding the back of the net.
And in a variety of ways, too. It's not just the usual things.
Oh, Bowers had to walk out.
Yeah, that was dangerous there. That was very dangerous. Lynchburg maybe should consider themselves fortunate.
That would be another unique one. Don't always see the ball going through the goalkeeper's hands, and looked like a little bit more trouble than it might have been, as Bowers had pretty nice poise over it. Lynchburg can look to go the other way, a throw right around midfield. See these long throws, that far touchline. Uruguayan constantly looking to advance. And now Lynchburg can Reverse to the other side. Sammy Rogstad now moving into a sprint. She'll slow things down and look near side at Madeline Boyce.
Good battle there.
You can tell WNL did their scouting. Boyce leads the team in goals. She has been limited in touches today. That's not to say she can't sneak in and find her opportunity, but what a way for the Generals to take out the main characters from Lynchburg.
I still think Lynchburg's got the initiative, don't they? I think they've got Washington and Lee on the back foot a bit. Man, good job to pick that ball out of the sky.
You talk about a heat check. If Groff drops it, Boyce is right on the doorstep, and that's a second goal for Lynchburg. So many good opportunities. The vibe's a little bit different than what they might have been 20 minutes ago.
I can't understand it when people think this is boring. I think this has been outstanding, and it's really, you can't take your eyes off it. And I don't even think you need to know the history of these teams, Evan, or any of that stuff that happened last year. You throw that in there. That's some extra spice in the dish for sure. Right now, Washington and Lee still in a good spot. You know, I say Lynchburg's got the momentum, and I truly think they do, but you'd always rather be the team that's up 2 goals.
Makes life for your fans a little bit easier. Lynchburg will have to hold its breath as this ball deflects off Rogstad. A very close throw to the corner. WNL tries to take it quickly. Otney disrupted again.
And if you're Washington and Lee, again, this offense can be your best defense. If you're down here and you're attacking third, that means Lynchburg's not getting shots off.
Is a great point. Lynchburg is very good when they get on the run, and so you do have to watch the counter, but WNL doing what they did in the first half of just sitting in that attacking third. Irigoyen, a little contact on the far touchline. She'll take this one out one-on-one. And now just trying to find her way out.
Yeah, I don't hate that. It looked like Irigoyen might go to the middle there on the counterattack, but sometimes discretion, the better part of valor, or one of those phrases. She decided to slow it down just a tad, get more of a slower, composed, true build-up here for Lynchburg. Subs, I believe it was Wellington back in there. Looks like Irigoyen out.
Obviously, you want extended minutes from your wings in a contest like this, but it is a little bit more running and a lot of back and forth in this second half. You can understand. Doesn't matter what level of fitness you have at this stage of the season, even if the temperature is about as perfect as you could get. Not easy minutes in the mid to late second half as Casey boots this one into the student section.
And the fact that Irigoyen just came off actually makes me think of something. That shows she was really patient, because sometimes you see the sub on the sideline waiting to come in. You have an idea who she's coming in for, right? Sometimes you see that and you think, well, I'm going to go straight to the goal. I'm not letting go of this ball. It's going to stay on my foot. So the fact that Irigoyen had some patience there and let the build-up happen naturally was pretty cool. Now, she may not have seen Wellington waiting on the sideline. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened, but that does happen sometimes.
It's always fun to speculate a little bit.
Well, what else are we going to do, right?
That's right. And you know that everybody on this field tonight for a Code Red contest, whatever team you are, you want to be out there in front of one of the bigger showings that you'll see throughout the season.
Well, and remember Coach Olson's great phrase, finish on empty. That's one that the team talks about all the time, meaning you want the gas tank to be on E when you get the game done. We're kind of getting into the later stages of second half play now. There's 25 minutes left still, but that tank should be maybe a quarter full right now, Evan. I think Lynchburg's really proud of their physical effort. Just got to clean up maybe some of the mental and the skillful effort areas. Could be right here.
They have an opportunity. Field opens up for Ava Olson. A tap with her left foot inside to Boyce, who loses control. Generals can clear. If you're just joining us, WNL scores the first 3. The third in particular, the highlight reel material we might be remembering for a long time. But Lynchburg has found one back. Megan Lauder got it done off a beautiful cross from Lilianis Irigoyen. Hornets searching for the second.
Maybe another one here.
Morgan Oliver, a long ball to Wellington on the far side of the field. She's going to have to chase all the way to the corner. A touch to keep it in. Now one-on-one action. Beautiful touch and footwork. She gets the ball in, but it's sniffed out.
We've seen that deep corner dump a couple times with Wellington. One of her strong suits is one-on-one play, and got a decent cross in there, but that intermediate defender for Washington and Lee was the one that knocked that down. Just real quick, back to the skill. Remember, Lynchburg's setup before that offensively looked good, and then Boyce with one of those touches that just kind of trampolines off your foot. You never intend to have it happen that way, but when it does, it almost always benefits the defense.
It's all about finding the next chess move in that situation. Maybe you don't have exactly what you preferred, but Lynchburg is now looking into plan B and plan C. What can they do to just find another lifeline? They've had one. Maybe it's Ella Irons re-entering the contest as Boyce will head to the sideline.
Yeah, I think a physical back and forth, sideline to sideline game like this, both teams are going to be subbing a bit more as this one starts building towards a conclusion. I really just still love Lynchburg's effort. I think they're outworking Washington and Lee right now. But then again, when you're down 2 goals, you have to. I mean, that's the only way to get some extra touches and chances is to outwork the other team, get to more 50-50 balls, and then you got to get to the second 50-50 ball, meaning usually when you win the first 50-50 ball, your touch is not clean, so somebody has to re-win the possession for you after that again. So it's interesting right now. I love Lynchburg's effort. Just got to make it pay off in the form of 2 goals.
And I love what you mentioned about those 50-50s because I think people always get this image that it's just one opportunity. But, you know, unless your name's Muhammad Ali, one punch doesn't normally end the fight. And you got to just stay persistent in the midfield, right?
That's an excellent phrase by you. And the other players around the 50-50 ball have to get engaged too because, again, if I get to a ball, you know, a shoelace ahead of you, I'm not really going to be able to control the touch usually and know where it goes. So everybody else has to activate and get involved, and I might have to just win it from somebody else or win it back from you. That's the great exchanges that you get in our game is those balls that aren't truly won. You just got to keep digging and keep digging.
It's a strategy the Hornets are trying to employ. Just a little time left. Still over 20 minutes, but the fight will have to happen sooner rather than later. Hornets have continued to use a little bit of tempo as Lynchburg has one more at home after this one in this 3-game homestand. Generals searching for their 4th line drive right back to Bowers.
Really nice there by Bowers to just catch that cleanly, keep it in bounds, get Lynchburg a possession. Sometimes you parry that, and all of a sudden it becomes a Washington and Lee goal kick.
See if Irons gets a foot on it, a little extra contact, and W&L maintains possession. The Generals will be back at home versus Randolph-Macon. And their next contest, another strong opponent in the ODAC. We mentioned no days off. Well, there's one of those middle-of-the-table opponents. And then for Lynchburg, you're playing back at home versus Roanoke, who beat you 2-0 last year. That was the contest that was not scored an ODAC game, but you know Roanoke brings back a lot of talent. They're going to be hungry as well.
Yeah, everybody in conference should really be considered a rival, but those 2 teams, I mean, this is a really tough 2-game stretch for Lynchburg, isn't it? You get to play 2 teams that really have been your competitive rivals in recent history and expect to be again this year. So regardless of result tonight, it's going to be an interesting 48 hours for Coach Dr. Todd Olson and his staff. How do we get the gals some rest, but also try to maybe shore up some things in a practice Friday, work on a few things?
Only a couple days separating the next match. That's really how it works once you hit October. Almost every Wednesday and Saturday, you'll see both of these squads in action. Lynchburg moving forward. This Washington and Lee back line really hasn't been pressed in the last few minutes. They're doing well just to keep everything in front of them. One more goal would obviously reseal it. We said that about 3 goals, but Lynchburg came right back and scored one of their own.
Yeah, well, I said we reserve the right to change our minds if Lynchburg
That's exactly
scores.
Right.
And we still do. I just wonder, you know, there was about that 10-minute stretch there, Evan, where I kept saying Lynchburg's got the momentum. They've got the initiative. They've got the energy. Feels like Washington and Lee has weathered that storm to me. I think Lynchburg, I don't want to say they blew it all in that 10-minute stretch because I know they've still got some life, but I think they were really working hard for 10 minutes, and then when you don't get a goal in that period, all of a sudden it becomes harder to readjust. Okay, physical play there. Referees are really letting them get after it there. Washington and Lee wanted a whistle on that.
Lynchburg might be able to get away with one as well, as Irons all the way to the other side of the field for Wellington. Almost everybody in the crowd thought Otney deserved a call, but now W&L moving the other way. Once again, no call.
It's a solid tackle there, and that's maybe football IQ, soccer IQ, because hey, the refs are letting us play. Maybe I'll try to get a little rough with it.
We've seen a few of those late matches. You've seen right around 70 minutes of the officiating style. You know what's going on. Now W&L trying to go down Main Street. Lynchburg says no thanks. Here comes Rogstad. A little bit of space. She's going to go back to the middle. And Morgan Oliver still searching. And W&L surrounding, but the Hornets trying to find one more option. Groff comes out, bobbles it. No one was in the area code, and she can take it cleanly. But, wow, there's another one. Might make you catch your breath.
I think that's one. Back to the energy. If that shot comes early in the game, Lynchburg, other forwards are crashing there. But towards the end of the game, you're so wiped out energy-wise, it's hard to put your foot on the gas and sprint and hope that the keeper misses. Back to, you don't know, you're not inside every player's head. But that just seemed like one there where I think if Lynchburg had a little more gas in the tank, maybe a hustle after that rebound.
You never know which opportunity it will be, and for Groff, it just looked like a really weird exchange, trying to figure out if she should go underhand or allow it to bounce. But now she might be pressed into action once more. Lynchburg still prowling on the attack. Just under 18 minutes to go in this contest, and one that the Generals have really dominated on the stat sheet. But Lynchburg trying to change that, and on just 2 shots, they found their first goal.
I think this Lynchburg little spurt here in the last 2 minutes had Washington and Lee defensively feeling uneasy, but then you get the ball in the midfield here, and now the Generals can take some pressure off and perhaps maybe get a 4th goal of their own.
We'll see if they get space. There's some contact from Casey in the middle of the field. Play on. The Generals just swarmed by Lynchburg. That's defense you want to see if you're Coach Todd Olson, but maybe not the best pass in the world. W&L and Helen Otney trying to refine the net. Here's a long effort. Bowers just watches it as it sails over the goal line and out.
Let me get back to that sequence there where, like you said, Lynchburg defenders swarm and then the pass is off target. I guess that's what I mean when I'm talking about you have to be sharp if you're Lynchburg. I say sharp. That's kind of maybe a little bit ambiguous. It means make the first play and then make the next play, because that's what happens. Sometimes you feel good about the tackle and the takeaway, and then all of a sudden you just eject the ball. You get rid of it. You kick it hard into somebody's zip code. Be a little sharper, a little cleaner, and that is so difficult. Again, when you're down 2 goals, you really have to be. You almost have to play perfect soccer at this point if you're Lynchburg.
Feels like really since that second goal, that's been the expectation, because you come out of the huddle, you're saying, okay, let's just get one back, and it's even again. But the blueprint looked a lot different for Lynchburg. Can they find a second, as Sammy Rogstad will have this one out for a throw? Last season, when you see the stat sheet right now, W&L is out shooting Lynchburg 7-2 for context. The Generals were outshot in only 3 of their 21 matches. It just goes to show the offensive firepower, and it goes back to possession as well as Casey inserts this opportunity.
Stay with it if you're Lynchburg. Good turn. I don't think you hate that if you're the Lynchburg coaches. Had a lot of support up there. That would be the argument maybe for not trying the shot right there. Maybe try to settle and rebuild the attack, but I don't think you hate the look, really.
And if anybody's going to take a long effort, it's probably going to be Morgan Oliver. She's taken a few this year. The one aforementioned earlier and pays off. Maybe not the best look for the moment, but it was a beautiful strike that found the back of the net, put Lynchburg up 1-0 in their first home game. There's another unforced error as this pass just rattles out.
And that's back to what you really can't afford right now if you're Lynchburg. Can't afford those unforced errors. We've seen Lynchburg kind of get stuck on the sideline some. That always happens in soccer because, the defender now can just shield you and force you to that sideline. So it becomes easy to try to just pass along the sideline rather than try to go back to the middle or somewhere at a 45-degree angle, work your triangles. But that has happened a bit too much for Lynchburg tonight. But credit Washington and Lee. I mean, again, they're forcing that. They're forcing Lynchburg to stay and get stuck on those sidelines quite a bit.
And if you're Washington and Lee now, the best part about this ball game is that you can live on that touchline or the corners and really kill the clock, understanding Lynchburg is going to have to find the middle of the field and have to advance into that attacking third, as it is quickly becoming desperation time for the Hornets. They've gotten a few goals in quick succession this year. Look no further than last game. You see it's really just a span of a couple minutes where they come back and score 2. But there will have to be a lot more hardware in store. You got to get all the tools out of the toolbox if you want to come away with this one.
Yeah, might have to go to a few that you don't normally use as well. But great point about Washington and Lee. Time and Score says they can just put the ball into touch basically anytime they want to and reset their formations and reset their organization. So that's really valid, and that's back to what those good teams do. Those good teams understand time and score. They know what chances to take when. They know how to play with leads, especially 2-goal leads at that.
Generals with patience back to the back line, and now they can refine the middle of the field. It's just so comfortable. All the passing, and it leads to Avery Hanna now on the approach to Berman. That's a nice touch, and she still has space, but watch out for Madeline Boyce behind. The Generals will have a throw. 13 minutes to play in the Hill City, and on the Lynchburg Hornets Sports Network, a doubleheader of action today. Lynchburg's field hockey squad wins 5-0 versus Bridgewater. Here's a shot going all the way through. Clips the post and out. It's a goal kick, but you got a little paint job on the post as it was about as close as it's going to get.
I'm fully impressed. I mean, she might have been closer to the sideline than she was the penalty box. We'll find out. Equidistant maybe, but I mean, what a strike. And you get that to skim the crossbar. That's outstanding quality. That is top-tier skill.
When you're looking at your crossbar challenge and you see people lining up at the penalty spot as another one sails just a foot over the net, it can be so difficult when you see the common folk trying to get it done, and then you see an attack from outside the box. It looks that easy sometimes.
Yeah, and we can assure you fans that haven't played soccer, it is not easy. That is not easy to do, to get that kind of velocity and accuracy from that distance. And again, back to time and score, Evan, Washington and Lee can do that. They can kind of take pot shots from wherever right now if they so choose, and you never know. You might luck into one. I say luck. I mean, that's high skill. That wouldn't be luck if that went in, but I think you get my point.
Well, so many attackers on this roster as well, and they are mainstays in the lineup. I've already talked about someone like Sophie Berman. You can look at the goal scorers, the goal leaders on this team. It goes up and down the list. Can be anybody's day, and the Generals can live with it. Right now, it's been by committee. It feels like everybody's been bought in. Now Ann Riley Huber trying to fend off Madeline Boyce, heading to the box. Now the middle of the field, there's a little bit of congestion, and Lynchburg can just send this one out.
Yeah, smart defending there by Lynchburg. Use the second defender. Can't quite get a buildup or a counterattack with it. So Wellington had a chance on that far sideline, but then it clanged off her foot. Lynchburg's got just over 10. So we've seen it before. Substitutes coming in for Lynchburg. Again, Evan, I think it's a great spot to try to get some fresh legs.
Really gives you the feel that there might be one final surge as Ava Olsen and Liliana Siragoyen return to the field. Lynchburg, it feels like, is approaching a familiar fate in the last couple of years. Just one win against WNL in their last 6 matches. A few draws, so it's not all completely dreary, but it feels like Lynchburg has struggled to solve the puzzle. And again, the Generals, their recruiting, their coaching, top to bottom, has just been on full display.
Yeah, kudos to Washington and Lee. You're absolutely right. Top-tier program. They're showing it tonight, playing well on the road in front of a quote-unquote hostile crowd.
One thing that WNL has done well, when you look at some of the other Code Red contests, it had a very similar feel. The opponents have gotten off to really good starts. Look no further than Lynchburg's volleyball contest. They went down 2-0, forced a 5th set against Randolph-Macon, and you get the crowd back. Well, it feels like the Generals, after conceding that first goal, did not allow any energy to come back. It was only a few minutes, and Lynchburg has started to settle again. It just feels like the Generals have pounded that attacking third.
Extremely well played game by Washington and Lee, and I would second everything you said in your last statement. Yeah, aerial play's been good too from Washington and Lee, the headers. Lynchburg, of course, scored their goal on a header. That speaks to the overall quality of the game. Watch out here.
Here's another effort that sails over, but once again, just the confidence to take those shots. WNL has not been shy. They're getting a lot of different opportunities from multiple contributors. That's the 8th shot of the day.
Well, and just continuing the thought, I mean, for Washington and Lee, when other teams watch this tape, what's the blueprint to beat them? I mean, where are the weaknesses? You know, you just have to play a perfect game and hope they maybe have a little bit of a letdown game. And again, Washington and Lee's been beaten this year. They're human like everybody else, but they're playing really good soccer right now. I know Lynchburg would like to have another chance, and they may, in fact, get one in the ODAC tournament. Long way to go before we get to that point.
If you look at the Hornets' conference schedule last year, there's certainly a reason for optimism. Went 47 straight days without a loss, and a very similar spot on the schedule as well. They lost to Emory and Charlotte, then went on that unbeaten streak, and eventually would lose to WNL in the conference tournament. But a lot of room to make things happen, as Kate McEnroe will replace Abby Groff with the goalkeeping duties. So once again, Groff exits this contest not allowing, just one goal. But you look at the amount of run support, we could say. Yes, WNL puts up 3 goals. It just feels like Lynchburg never had a true strand of aggression that stuck around. It felt like WNL sniffed it all out.
You're absolutely right, and I think great goalkeeping. She can hang up those gloves to dry and feel pretty good. But, you know, those great ones, they're not a lot of times not satisfied. So she may not be happy that one got behind her tonight. But, yeah, Washington and Lee defensively, they have been sound. Keeper change would tell you that Washington and Lee probably feels pretty good about their chances in this one.
Now just 2 goals allowed this season for Abby Groff. Kate McEnroe, a freshman from Mars, Pennsylvania, getting some reps once again. We've seen this is a season where WNL has featured a couple keepers. It hasn't been entirely Groff, but she has earned every start. Sophie Berman looking for space, and she has the entire Lynchburg committee around her. Earns the call. Now the Generals can set up shop again. General squad that will improve to 6-1 with the win. 6 straight shutouts. They are the only ranked team in the ODAC right now, and they certainly could climb right now around 20. But hold your breath. Just because the poll was released yesterday doesn't mean that there isn't room to grow. You have a whole month before the postseason.
Good strong serve into the middle there. Back to the skill. I mean, that ball is directly on the midfield line, so you're playing that a full 40 yards or so in the air. And it's really a talented Washington and Lee team, top to bottom. No weak links. If there are weak links, they manage to cover them up and make sure they don't get exposed in those areas.
This one will be a goal kick from Meredith Bowers. You can see a little extra hustle trying to get this thing underway, and you understand Lynchburg needs it. Would need a miracle at this stage of the contest, but we have seen crazier things on Schellenberger Field. Now on Code Red night, is there a little bit of magic left?
And the key would be to get a quality chance. Good job shielding with the body there. Yeah, the key would be to get the quality chance, get the first one, I think. And then once you get it to a one-goal game, basically you look at the clock, see how much time you have. Then you might not be able to be that choosy about the quality. You might just have to try to get something in there.
That's when the goalie is coming out of the box.
Sure.
As Olsen threads this one through. A nice touch from Lauder, just couldn't find Boyce. And it rattles away. Take two, Rogstad with some nice footwork, trying to move down that touch line. The ball through to Madeline Boyce. Oh, it looked like it stayed on the left side of the flag. So it's a throw deep for WNL.
You got to really press hard here if you're Lynchburg.
And if you're Haley Casey, the assignment of Sophie Berman is not an easy one. You can't let her get behind, but as you said, there's only so much time you can allow.
And Lynchburg's going to get to reorganize here, maybe. A little bit of an interesting play. I think everybody's all right.
Both players standing up, and doesn't warrant a whistle, so Lynchburg can keep on rolling. Madeline Boyce, a nice touch. But once again, just met with a sea of blue. It has been just about perfect defense from WNL. Megan Lauder, the lone error right now, and Lynchburg still struggling. You just need a few passes to connect into that attacking third. Who wants it?
Yeah, Generals continue to play hard. That is for sure, and continue to display their quality in their class. I think a good idea on the header, but nobody ran to the area. That's one where there's always going to be so much improvisation out there. And you have those teams and those players that have played together a lot. You can kind of read the other player's mind a bit. Know where she wants you to run. Know where she might be running.
So synchronized is this General squad. A squad that has not had a losing season since 1992. Top 10 in the nation right now for shutout percentage. You do have a mark on the scoreboard with Lynchburg's goal, but have to expect that will stay up there in the national ranks throughout the season. Just a lot to be proud of. And for Lynchburg, obviously you're going to rebound. You've had a nice stretch of games. You won 2 coming into this one. It's just about how quickly can you regain your composure, and you need to because you're playing a really good Roanoke squad.
Sure, the turnaround's got to be quick. You got to have the short memory. I'm not convinced Lynchburg's completely out of this.
Here's another attempt that files through in the box. Lynchburg finds goal number 2, run to the middle of the field. No time to waste.
You can't really even celebrate what ended up being an outstanding goal. High lofted ball comes in, one bounce. It's not the header, it's the volley to finish it. Lynchburg's within 1. Just over 2 to play. Some people would tell you that's an eternity, but in soccer terms, it can be difficult. It can be very difficult. Let's just see here, Evan. This is great, though.
You may get one chance. You got to be perfect. But Lauren Orner has given Lynchburg a lifeline. The sophomore from Reisterstown says, I don't want to be done yet. Let's rewrite the narrative. And WNL is certainly susceptible to these late comebacks. An 89th minute strike and the ODAC semifinal. Can Lynchburg give them another taste of what was a sensational comeback? But the Generals trying to handle business now.
Look out.
Madeline Boyce works it to the other side of the field. Grukowski will move forward.
Almost have to assume this is going to be your last possession here if you're Lynchburg. You really have to think that way. Oh, good move.
Look at the speed on the far side of the field. Oliver had a foot on it, and it files out. Now WNL can take their time.
Wow. Yeah, again, if you're WNL, use the time and score. Kick the ball long every chance you get. Play the ball into touch every chance you get. Do not take chances with the possession if you're Washington and Lee.
Generals boot this one away. Lynchburg down but not out. What would be a sensational comeback. It'll have to happen late as Boyce just can't get the touch. WNL sends it out. The coaching staff helping Lynchburg reinsert. And now everybody around the field with just over a minute to go. We'll see the clock stop, or no, it's still rolling. So right around 60 seconds. Hornets have to be just about perfect.
Yeah, a little bit of bad luck there. See if Bauer comes up from the goalie spot. Under a minute now. A little bit of bad luck because it took so long to get that in. Here comes a big throw from Irigoyen.
From the track, she sends this one in. It's not going to find the Hornets, and they're going to have to do a little bit more. Irigoyen now crosses this one, sailing to the goal, and a hand keeps Lynchburg off. Oh, my goodness.
A late corner.
McEnroe didn't know what she was going to encounter. Lynchburg inserts the corner, looking for the other side. Rogstad paints the crossbar. Can the Hornets get the final chance? Pinball all the way out, and Lynchburg has everything but a goal as this one's going to expire.
Wow, one of the wildest final 60 seconds you will see. We've seen some of the greatest goals that you're going to see all season. That was a chaotic finish, and Washington and Lee holds on by the skin of their teeth. My goodness, Evan.
If you left this one early, we apologize in advance. It was a crazy final 5 minutes, and Lynchburg, after getting a little extra support from Lauren Orner, has a final chance or two that just skim off the goal. And WNL walks away barely intact.
You just sensed in that final 20 minutes or so that it was not over. Remember, Washington and Lee had the 3-0 lead. I mean, look at this madness at the end.
Wow.
Off the woodwork, and then another ball that comes in. Full credit to the Generals. They scrambled back. They got legs and bodies in front of shooting lanes and scoring avenues. They did what they had to do to hold on right there. This was a game. This was a game. This is one of the better games you will ever see.
You're still shaking in your boots, really, if you're either squad. Lynchburg thought they had the equalizer. WNL was halfway home before Lynchburg was able to bring this one back, and a very impressive contest. You know, Kyle, when you look at those last two opportunities from Lynchburg as well, it feels pretty fitting that Irigoyen and Rogstad are two that contribute, because they're two that might not always show up on the stat sheet, but they have been all over this homestand.
I was impressed with Irigoyen. You know, she got the assist on the first Lynchburg goal on a ball that we thought maybe she just took a hack at. No, she put it right on target. And then that final sequence there, the long throw gets rebounded back to her, and she takes a slash from at the sideline, and that's the one that hit the crossbar and set up the corner. I mean, that ball nearly went in. It is truly a game of inches. If you're Washington and Lee, I think you should feel good. In my opinion, I think the Hornets should take a lot of positives from that. Now, Dr. Todd Olson's going to say, hey, that's why you don't fall down 3-0, and I feel like that's obvious. But it is, I feel like we got a good taste of what Lynchburg can do, especially with their backs to the wall.
Well, it was a long journey, and after WNL really thought they had things figured out, Lynchburg rewrote the blueprint, and Kate McEnroe maybe had save of the day in one of the final minutes of play. Lynchburg almost inches their way back in, but in the end, the Generals walk away with it, a 3-2 victory that will not go on the ODAC slate. It is a very fun time to be on Schellenberger Field, and you can do it again very soon. Saturday is where we will have all the action, 3 different games in the Hill City. We're so thankful for everybody involved, our entire camera crew, our director, Ethan Maratsky. On behalf of Kyle Haney, I'm Evan Gates saying so long from the Hill City.